Smith was a 38-year-old mother when she left her Eden home in December 2001 to go Christmas shopping in Martinsville, Virginia. She never came home, and her car was never found. For years, her family didn't know whether they were grieving or waiting. They gave interviews, asked for tips, kept her name in the public eye, featuring her story on Dateline and true crime podcasts. Was it an accident, foul play, or did she walk away? They never knew until today.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment. I just hit that bottom of the video. It was going to hop right into it. So today, we will be doing a North Carolina story. I know we haven't done one in a while, but this one has went viral recently, so definitely got to talk about it. And that is the story of Michele Hundley Smith. So, Michele Hundley Smith, as you can see from the news report first, but Michele Hundley Smith is a woman who went missing from Eden, North Carolina on December 9th, 2001. She was said to be going to go Christmas shopping at a Kmart in Martinsville, Virginia. If you aren't from, well, if you're wondering why she was going all the way to Virginia, one, Eden is right on the border of North Carolina, Virginia. Two, it's a small town, so it probably wasn't really many stores and things there at that time as well. And three, a lot of people, venture into Virginia because it's very, very close, a lot closer than people think. Because even being from Raleigh myself, which is kind of center part of the state, it still can take me like less than an hour to get to Virginia. So a lot of people have ventured into Virginia. So this wasn't out of the ordinary. Like I said, she went missing on December 9th, 2001, and up until recently, she was never heard again. No body, couldn't find her vehicle, which was a Pontiac transport van, green, had a distinct license plate, never found a vehicle, anything of that sort. Very, very, very crazy case. Now, obviously from this, I wanted to do my research and what exactly could have made this whole thing occur. So she had a family, she had a husband, and she had 3 kids. She had two girls. One was actually at this point out the house because she was engaged. She was 18, turning 19 when her mama went missing. The middle child, who's the one who does like most of the talking, she was 14. She had a very close relationship with her mother. So, and we're going to get more in that. And then it was the youngest son. He was 8. At this moment in time, we don't know exactly why she did it, but you can incur. So, the first piece of research that I did is actually a Vanish podcast. I had heard of the Vanish podcast before, where they do like stories on missing people. And the middle child, the one that was real close to her, actually went up there and spoke for about 40 minutes. And honestly, she gave a lot of interesting like tidbits to the story. So I will say first, this was also an interesting case because a woman had not gone missing not too long, and I don't think she's ever been found. Well, she wasn't found at the moment, but she had ever been found either not too long before Michele Hundley Smith went missing. So like I said, he's not a big town. So for 2 people to go missing in a couple months of each other is very, very interesting. So obviously at that time they probably were thinking the worst. I mean, her middle daughter, or middle child, I should say, youngest daughter, went on there and gave a few details. So, like I said, the sister was already at the house, got engaged, heard that out the middle daughter's mouth. Now, what interesting tip points we did is a few of them, and I'll like put the audio about it, but some of them flow into each other, so I'll be talking about them multiple at a time. So, these first like 4-5 tip points, they kind of all flow into each other, so I'll just put this in together. She talked about her parents' relationship before her mom went missing. She said her mom, at first she said she had got fired, but she actually lost her job. Or she quit, I should say, but she actually lost her job due to drinking. So she had talked about this multiple times that her mom had a drinking issue that kind of revved over into her marriage, and her dad did not like that, and it caused some disputes in the marriage. She also said that her parents had got physical a few times. She didn't say anything like her dad was just straight on beating on her mom, but she said they got physical a few times. So I don't know if that's just like wrestling or tussling around the house, or don't know exactly, but she didn't say anything about them really like striking each other. So she also said that her parents were not sleeping in the same bed the year before the disappearance. She said her, obviously, usually it's like I think she said dad was sleeping in bed and her mom was on the couch, or other way around, something like that. But yeah, they weren't sleeping together, so that should tell you something. And also, like I said, her drinking problem, that her mom hid her drinking. Well, she had tried to convince her husband that she had stopped, but she was hiding her drinking from her husband. And he ended up figuring it out, and like I said, caused problems in their marriage.
At the time Michele disappeared, She wasn't working, and for about a year beforehand had been struggling with alcohol.
She had lost her prior job a few months before she had left because she had worked at the Eden Veterinarian. She helped out there because my aunt works there and got her a job. I found out later on, she told us that she quit, and I had found out later on that she got fired for drinking on the job. Her and my dad, they argued, and it got physical a few times, and honestly, I couldn't tell you what the arguments were about, but they would argue a lot, especially within that last year. My dad was sleeping in his bed, and my mom would fall asleep in her chair in the living room. And so I know they weren't sleeping together like husband and wife. So, and my dad didn't like the fact that my mom hid her drinking. I knew about it, and I was the only one, and I felt, I was young, and I felt obligated not to say anything to betray my mom, so I felt like I couldn't betray my mom by telling my dad that she was drinking. He suspected her of drinking, but no, he didn't actually find out until a couple of days after she left. I went up to Daddy, and I told him that she drank, and he didn't seem surprised. He just asked me he said, "Do you know where she kept the bottles at?" And I showed him. We had a little red building outside, and it was slammed full of rum bottles, the empties, the ones that she had already drank.
A couple minutes later, she talks about that her parents cheated on each other. So that's definitely going to be a problem in a marriage.
Left, or that he was involved, and I hate to think that. But he was with someone else in July of the next year. Of course, that didn't last, but he was with somebody in July of the next year. So, and it turned out he had knew this woman prior to my mom leaving. He knew her from a bar he went to. My mom and my dad cheated on each other when they were together. I don't have evidence of my dad cheating. I just have from what my mom has told me things. But my mom, I knew for a fact, was cheating. If she wanted to leave my dad, that's one thing. But to leave us, I just don't see it happening. She loved us.
She spoke about how the youngest brother hates his mom because of departure because he felt like she just walked off. Well, at the time, he felt like she just walked off. He didn't have any added details.
I didn't think myself that my dad was worried as the way that I was. And now that my brother's older, he hates my mom because he is convinced that my mom up and left, and he was so young at the time that he doesn't know things the way that me and my sister know them. And we've been waiting for a very long time to sit him down and explain to him everything that has went on so that he knows, because he just has hate in his heart for her, and he doesn't know everything. He does.
Another time she talked about her being unhappy in the marriage led to drinking.
It makes no sense. And I know the reason that she had started drinking so much was because that she was unhappy because her and my dad was arguing all the time. And at one point, my dad was an alcoholic himself. He got better and he stopped drinking. But I know the reason she drank is because she was unhappy with her marriage. I do know that they were unhappy. They both seemed unhappy because they always argued all the time. It's like at the end they were staying together because of us.
That her dad would get like very. He said he would. She described that he would explode. He'd get very angry about her drinking and even her smoking cigarettes. So he didn't like both of that habits of hers, and like I said, caused problems in her marriage.
I think it's a combination of that and the fact that my dad would explode at anything. My dad didn't even like her smoking cigarettes she had to hide that from him as well. He got extra angry at times, but that was mainly when I think she just went through so much when he was drinking all the time, and she went through so much physical stuff that even though he had quit drinking and he had gotten clean from that, she still was afraid to let him find out about her drinking and her smoking cigarettes, because she hid them, and I was the only one that knew about that too. She only smoked when I went with her places, and that's why I guess I went with her to so many places, because nobody else knew that she smoked. Well, I'm sure they had the
Another problem is, and she said that she really only confided in her because it was an issue when she tried to go some type of store, like she tried to get some wine or something like that, and she had a suspended license. So Michelle's obviously going through a lot, like a couple years, and with her marriage and her vices, I should say, before her disappearance. So that's definitely something interesting to take in, and we'll get in that in a couple minutes and get into it more in a couple minutes. Now, listening to this, it got very, very eerie. I'm not gonna lie. Where it starts to get kind of eerie at is after her disappearance. They had already knew that she had, I mean, like most mothers, but she had access to her children's social security numbers and their cards and things of that sort. And they said some years into her disappearance, I forgot the exact year off the top of my head, but they said that in Maryland, the middle daughter's social security number was used for a ambulance ride.
With Michele when she disappeared was her purse and wallet. In her wallet, she had her social security card and also her two youngest children's social security cards. In the 5 years that followed her disappearance, there had been no activity on Michele's social security number at all. And nothing unusual had come up on the kids either. About 5 years after her mom's disappearance, a letter arrived at the house.
There was one time that I think I was about 19 years old when it had happened. My dad received a letter in the mail, and it was from Cumberland, Maryland, and it was mailed to my mom. It had her name on it, but when you opened it up on the inside, it had my name on it too. And I called them, and they told me that my social security number had been used, that someone had took an ambulance ride. And I asked them, I tried asking them questions, but they told me that they could not give me nothing over the phone because they could not verify that I was who I was saying I was. And I tried numerous times, but never got anywhere with that. I think it was just my social security number that had been used. I think that she had to use my social security number and put down her name, but she put her middle name down as Ann, which is my middle name. And that was the closest thing that we had ever really gotten.
And unless it was just a pure chance of identity theft, or her mom used it. And after the details, and after I get to later, you're gonna understand why that's funny. You didn't have accusations and notes and or just her planning to leave. It was supposedly some type of note that her dad mentioned to her years in, but after that one mention of it, nobody's ever talked about it since. So we're unsure if the note even ever existed.
Many years after Michelle's disappearance, Amanda's father told her and her siblings that their mother had left a note. This was the first time that any of them had heard of this.
I don't want to, foul my dad's name, but one of my theories is that maybe him and my mom, maybe she came back late and they got into an argument and it got a little too far, and Daddy accidentally did something to Mama when they were fighting, and then it got covered up. Because I was told later on that there was a note left, that my mom had left a note saying that she loved us all, but that she couldn't do it anymore. But I never have ever seen this note. My dad now acts like he doesn't even know what I'm talking about. And I remember being told this when I was in my 20s that she left a note, but me, neither nor my brother, nor my sister that I know of, has seen this note. Only my dad, and he only mentioned it one time, and that was in my 20s. And why not tell us when it happened so we could see the note?
The note is something that, as far as Amanda is aware, the police didn't even know about. And this makes it even harder for her to believe that it even exists.
I did not even know about the note the last time I talked to Tammy. And every time I tried to get in touch with Tammy afterwards, I had no luck in getting in touch with her. So I did tell Detective Michaels that there was a supposed note left. That's what my dad had said, but that I never seen it. So I guess he may have wrote it down. And we still haven't met yet because, like I said, something's always going on. But we plan to meet up real soon.
And just, it was just a crazy situation. So crazy. That's pretty much all from the podcast that the youngest daughter did about the disappearance of our mother. So I say all this to say, and why it's going viral, and why we're even really talking about this today, because Michele Hundley Smith has been located. Now, she has asked the police to, keep her location private, but she was located within North Carolina, so she was still in the same state and found 25 years later. So, well, not a full 25 years later, but almost 25 years later. So that's crazy as fuck. It's very eerie. So, with all the details given, especially from her middle child's account, like I said, she didn't, when people run away like this, things like that, obviously, one, they're unhappy. That's obvious. But two, a lot of times they do run away from abusive situations. Now, like I said, her daughter at the time, this one that's talking, was 14. The oldest child, I also forgot to say this in the podcast. She did talk about how the original detective on the case, she had a hard time getting back in contact with that. That's interesting to me too. But because small towns like this, I mean, where motherfucker really gonna go? I think, usually people run from this. It's abusive. It could be an abuse situation. Like I said, she did talk about her parents getting physical, so that's a possibility why she left. But I just feel like with the age, maybe the son wouldn't have realized because he was 8 at the time. But her at 14, and even though the oldest daughter didn't live in the house, I mean, she was still only 18, 19, and she had just got engaged. So she was previously living there for like not too long before that. So I assume so, just because she was high school age. But so I would assume that if the father was abusive, I mean, yeah, that's your father, but they probably would have been a little more vocal about it. I mean, obviously, yeah, some people who are just abusive to their partners and not abusive to their children, and then some people that just are abusive in general to everybody. But I definitely think, that could be a possibility. But it also does also sound like that, and I mean this in the most respectful way possible. Michele Huntley Smith could just be a piece of shit. She could have just refused. She was unhappy in her marriage, which is understandable. But some of these sound like maybe I can understand. Maybe he probably could have handled the situation better. He probably shouldn't kept exploding to her after, he figured out she was continuing to go with these vices. But you can also understand why that might continue to make him angry if y'all had previous conversations about her quitting and she's trying to hide it on the sneak tip from you. You could also understand why that makes him angry. So it does, like I said, it also could sound like that she might just be a piece of shit and that she didn't want to stop drinking and all that, and so she just left her marriage and her kids and went to go be somewhere else. And if I'm being honest, I'm leaning closer to that side, just for the simple fact of, one, you don't want to be you don't want to be found by your kids. Like, I can understand the husband and things of that sort, but they so old and grown at this tone. Like, think about it. We start doing the math. The oldest one, the 18, 19-year-old, is what, 44 at this point. The middle one that's been doing most of the talking, she's 37. 39 actually, you're doing the math right. And the youngest one, he's what, 33, 34. So they're grown at this point. If they wanted to move on and have a relationship with their mom, even without their dad, they could easily do that. So if she had contacted them and been like, yeah, I just don't want to talk to your dad and he was abusive, I can understand that. But the fact that she doesn't want to be located by no one, because even going through the thing, her cousin was very like, her cousin just spoke to the news and the news like in the last couple of days, and you could see how emotionally and distraught it was for her going 25 years without knowing. So I just feel like, and her, I don't know who ran the account. I'm assuming it's the middle daughter, just because it seemed like it. It was a Facebook account talking about bringing her home and things of that sort. So it's eerie. Like, and the fact that she just doesn't want to be contacted by anybody in her past life, I'm just really leaning toward the latter. Because, like I said, I can understand not wanting to talk to the husband, but your kids is what makes me concerned about, like, yeah, she really just walked away and didn't give a fuck. So, yeah, bro. It really ain't too much more to it. If we do got an update on if she, where she's found and what happened in the meantime, obviously I will update on y'all. But at this moment in time, that's all we got. I'm glad that she is alive and she was found, but definitely interested in what the hell actually took place. But that's really all I gotta say though. Like, share, subscribe, comment. I do about a video, and we out.